Okay, time in. Are we ready? All right, welcome back. We are ACI Course 1, Class 6. And thank you for keeping up with your assignments. I appreciate that. So let's gather our minds here as we usually do, please. Bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Think about how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it would be if we could also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they would go on to stop their distress forever. We're learning that that's possible. So I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And maybe into an intention. or even a determination if you feel ready. Then turn your mind back to that precious holy guide. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn, what we need to do to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands. And we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayam. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every other. So let's hear our text again. Translators, you may just go ahead and read your 3 principal paths while I do it in English. Okay, ready? 3 principal paths. I bow to all the high and holy lamas. As far as I am able, I will explain the essence of all high teachings of the victors, the path that all their holy sons commend, the entry point for the fortunate seeking freedom. Listen with a pure mind. Fortunate ones who have no craving for the pleasures of life and who, to make leisure and fortune meaningful, strive to turn their minds to the path which pleases the victors. There is no way to end without pure renunciation, this striving for pleasant results in the ocean of life. It is because of their hankering life as well that beings are fettered. So seek renunciation first. Leisure and fortune are hard to find. Life is not long. Think it constantly. Stop desire for this life. Think over and over how deeds and their fruits never fail, and the cycle is suffering. Stop desire for the future. When you have meditated thus and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of cyclic life, and when you begin to think both night and day of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. Renunciation, though, can never bring the total bliss of matchless Buddhahood unless it is bound by the purest wish. And so the wise seek the high wish for enlightenment. They are swept along on 4 fierce river currents, chained up tight in past deeds hard to undo, stuffed in a steel cage of grasping self, smothered in the pitch black ignorance. In a limitless round they are born, and in their births are tortured by 3 sufferings without a break. Think how your mothers feel. Think of what's happening to them. Try to develop this highest wish. You may master renunciation and the wish, but unless you have the wisdom perceiving reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. Make efforts in ways then to perceive interdependence. A person has entered the path that pleases the Buddha when, for all objects in the cycle or beyond, they see that cause and effect can never fail. And when for them, they lose all solid appearance. You have yet to realize the thought of the able, as long as 2 ideas seem to you disparate. The appearance of things, infallible interdependence, and emptiness beyond taking any position. At some point, they no longer alternate, come together. Just seeing that interdependence never fails brings realization that destroys how you hold to objects. And then your analysis with view is complete. In addition, the appearance prevents the existence extreme, emptiness, that of non-existence. And if you see how emptiness shows in cause and effect, you will never be stolen off by extreme views. When you have grasped, as well as I, the essential points of each of the 3 principal paths explained, then go into isolation, my child. Make mighty efforts and quickly win your ultimate wish. So hopefully that's making a little more, having a little more meaning for you as we go on. I'm going to assume so. So last week we learned about the cycle of life, samsara, korwa. We learned the definition, didn't we? Who can share it with me? Going once, going twice. I'm going to pick on somebody. Victor.
Samsara is a condition to be forced by karma and mental afflictions to take on the impure parts, which make up a suffering being over and over again in each life.
Perfect. Well said. And we're going to learn the details of how that process is happening. But we also learned in last class that there's a series of habitual reactions that we do that keep us cycling in that cycle. They were called the 8 worldly thoughts. You could say the 8 worldly reactions to things. Who can give me one pair of those 8? Shanti.
Well, being happy when you get what you want and being unhappy when you don't get what you want, or if you get what you don't want.
Yeah, perfect. And a second one, second pair. Roxana.
Good morning. Feeling good and not feeling good.
Well, what about feeling good and not feeling good?
Okay. Feeling good, probably it's like momentaneous when I have a pleasure of something, like feeling good when I'm in a family gathering. Not feeling good when I'm all by myself.
Yeah, so the point isn't the feeling good or feeling bad. It's the I'm happy when I feel good and I'm unhappy when I don't. Like my happy or unhappy state of mind is dependent upon feeling good or not feeling good. Right? That's that's the mistake that we're making.
C'est l'erreur que nous faisons.
So what's the next pair?
Be happy when you are famous and not be happy when you are not famous.
Yeah, but Leticia, I don't want to be famous. You're right. When we're well known or not well known, I do want to be well known, meaning respected and admired, and right. And I'm happy when it appears that people think that of me. That kind of fame. And I'm unhappy when I hear somebody like doesn't think highly of me. What's the fourth pair? Shanti, share with us, will you? I know you know.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so when people say they praise you or say good things about you, then you feel happy.
Yeah.
But if they criticize you or say something unpleasant, then you feel unhappy. And I think of it as happy with a small h or a big H.
Yeah, good.
Big H would be like, real happiness.
Yeah, right. Which we can reach happiness with a big H that's unrelated to what's going on around us. That's the idea here. So those two, the fame versus praise, they're subtle differences, aren't they? Being praised and criticized is a little different than being well known or badly known. And they must be important, right? Important aspects to us, or they wouldn't be included here. And I remember first learning these and thinking, I don't want to be famous. I don't care about that one. And then I realized, no, it wasn't that kind of fame. it was reputation, right? And my reputation is very important to me. And in the wrong kind of way is the point. So this isn't saying, oh, don't be happy when you feel good. Although Buddha has taught us it's going to end, right? You're going to not feel good soon. So let's just not ever be happy because nothing's ever going to go right. That's not what he means. We're learning the building blocks of being able to reach this state of mind of being happy regardless. And we'll see. Like, I remember at the beginning, it's like, there's no way that's possible. I was thinking, but now I see that, yes, it is very possible. So in your reading from last week's class, they use the analogy of renunciation being the medicine for our sickness of having desire for this life. And it's the words like that sound odd. It's like, of course I have desire for this life. If I didn't, I'd just like walk out in front of the street and never look both ways, right? I wouldn't feed myself. I wouldn't do anything if I didn't have desire for this life. So it's not just plain old, I want to be alive. It's a wrong desire for a wrong way of thinking about this life and what I expect from it. And the bottom line there is this idea about happiness with a little h and happiness with a big H. If we are still thinking that there is some happiness that will last, happiness that will be ultimate, that we can find in this world, that's the desire that we're talking about. Desire for a worldly life in which I find this ultimate happiness. Now it's interesting because we are going to use this life in samsara to reach that ultimate happiness. But the ultimate happiness is not going to come from some worldly thing or worldly situation or worldly behavior. We need this life. We need a human life to reach that ultimate state of happiness with a capital H that includes the omniscience that allows us to help that other reach that same state. So we do want to stay alive. The desire is the ignorant desire for the misbelief that we can find happiness in this samsaric world. And then we learned that there were two practices that we work on to gain the realizations of why this misunderstood desire for worldly life is mistaken and yet valuable. And it was those two practices, recognizing our leisures and fortunes to recognize what a rare and special opportunity we actually have. And then followed by the keen awareness of our own impermanence, which means that realization of our own death. The fact that our life is wearing out from the moment we were born. The fact that we have no idea when that's going to happen. And so learning to live life now and now and now to help us be karmically prepared for that event. Fast forward, we can be so karmically prepared for that event that we actually use it. Right? That's not in the open teachings necessarily, but we're gaining the foundation for even that. So those two realizations bring us to reassessing our behavioral priorities. So that we are living in such a way that we take advantage of those leisures and fortunes that we have, and that we are living day to day, knowing that this one could be our last one. And there's a beautiful practice module that I teach between course 2 and 3 that is this practice of learning a proper death awareness. And I find it so beautiful and so inspiring. Geshe-la said, I remember, if somebody threatened you sometime in the next 30 days, I'm going to come to your home and, break in and kill you. Would you wait until day 29 to secure your place? Like, no, you would go right home and do what you need to do to try to prevent that person from doing what they say they're going to do now, because you don't know if they're going to do it tomorrow or on day 30. So cultivating a keen awareness of our own personal impermanence is like securing our home, because the conclusion of that is, oh, I need to prioritize things, even worldly things, but mostly I need to prioritize my choices of behavior, which is what today's class is about, why that's true, right? And how we use it. So losing our attachment to our belief that I can find some deep happiness in my worldly life helps us in our behavior changing efforts. If we keep believing right? Our same old behaviors should be able to bring us this happiness we're looking for. Then we just keep trying the same old thing in different situations. When we recognize that we're mistaken in our actions to find happiness, then we're willing to try on some new behaviors. And the enlightened ones are so kind. They don't leave it to us to try to figure out what new behaviors will work. They give us a list. Try these. And they give us the ability to evaluate why that might be true, so that we can make our own decision in making our changes. So this system is not about just do what Buddha says. We've rejected that, most of us, which is why we're here. We're being given the tools to figure it out ourselves and the guidelines to help us not have to reinvent the wheel, because that takes a really long time. So growing our renunciation, we're looking at this attachment to worldly life, desire for more worldly life, meaning this belief that there's something that I can make happen in my life that will make me happy for good. And when we overcome that, our whole outlook shifts. But then, how do we stop desire for future life? So the same idea holds for future life. Is wanting a future life a bad thing? Do we even believe there really are future lives? Like growing up in my culture, that wasn't really even on the radar screen. No, particularly in my personal upbringing, it was like the material world is reality. When you die, you're dead and it's just done. And so do the best you can in this life. And when it ends, it ends. And I was really comfortable with that until I had a personal direct experience that that's not true. You don't end. And then I had no way to process that new information. So it's worth taking some time to think about what are you thinking happens after your body dies? Does your same old you go on? Does a different you go on? Are you all by yourself? Or is somebody helping you? What are the factors that drive what comes next? Are we living life now with an understanding that what I'm doing daily is setting up the circumstances for my whole next life, more than one, in fact? Do I make my donations thinking I'm doing this so that in my next life, I will get my needs met? No. Even as I understand it now, when I choose to make a donation, It's like, no, I have this. I want to help them in that way. I know I'm planting seeds, but I'm not relating it to creating the circumstances of my future specifically like that. And yet that is what we're doing. On another level, are we thinking, well, when I die, I'm a good person. When I die, I'll go to heaven. And in heaven, you're happy. So all I have to do is be good enough to go to heaven. And then I'm in heaven forever. Right? I heard that one as a little kid and, just rejected it. Or do we avoid the whole idea? Yeah, which probably is where many of us are still. Do we even believe there are future lives? It's not a difficult thing to prove to ourselves. And we have future classes where we go through it in some detail. But Geshe-la ran through it here in this early class. He said, recognize that you are aware right now, right? There is awareness happening. The light bulb is on. And you're focusing on this class. This class is a mirror of what's going on in your mind right now. So when I use the term mind, I still automatically think intellect. Like I'm thinking this class into being. No, I'm receiving it, right? Well, I'm giving it, but you're receiving it. But think of mind as this bigger awareing happening. And within that awareing happening is this whole situation of Sarahni speaking these words that I'm hearing in this way, and it is this class for me. All of that, each experience is unique to you. It is a reflection of your own mind. That means cancel that. So this awareness that you have right now, you can think back. You can have the awareness of thinking back. What happened just before? So you can remember having been aware of coming to class, right? Getting to your computer. And before that, oh, I got out of bed. Oh, right? We can trace back our moments of awareness. And we recognize that this moment has to have come from a previous moment of awareness. This moment is a ripening result. It had to have a cause. Causes have to be similar to their results. So mental makes mental, physical makes physical. Awareness makes awareness. So this awareness, which is like the only thing we really know for sure, had to have come from previous awareness. So let's go back. Ving, 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 back to the first moment of awareness in this life. I don't remember it personally, But it had to have happened because I'm aware right now. So now, what do you consider to be the first moment of this life? Is it your first breath? In which case, you know, the awareness, your awareness of the first breath had to have an awareness before that. If the start of life is at conception, the instant the egg and sperm touch, the two material things, where was that awareness before? Where was that mind the moment before? It had to exist. So it's not like it was somewhere, because the mind is not a material thing, but it did have to exist the instant before the first instant of awareness of this life, wherever you believe that actually happened. So if that's true, then that moment of mind had to have a moment before. And before that, and before that, and before that, and before that. Each one unique to you. The you that is you right now. So beginningless. Your mind is beginningless. The mind you are aware of now is beginningless. Now go the other way. Going into future. There'll be a last moment of mind awareness of this life. Do we think it just blinks out? It can't, right? For the same reason we say that there had to be a moment before the first moment of this life, because I'm aware now. Because I'm aware now, there has to be a next moment after the end of this body. And a moment after that. And after that, and after that. So endless going forward as well. If we call future forward. So do we really believe that the mind goes on in a stream? Like I just said, you know, you can think of it this way, but can we show ourselves, yes, we already believe that the mind goes on in a stream, and what we put into it, comes out of it later? And Geshe-la says, yes, because we go to school. Well, you know, we go to school because they force us to go to school, probably, but they force us to go to school because they know that if we learn our alphabet, if we learn to write and do arithmetic, when we grow up to be functional adults, we'll be able to balance our checkbook and, right, have jobs and etc. So we do believe that what we learn in school will carry on into our adult lives as useful tools. Geshe-la uses that as an example of how we already do believe that our mind stream goes on and it's influenceable, right? We can put things in that we will use later. So the question then is, what determines the contents of that mind? Like if this class is a mirror of your mind, what put that image in front of the mirror? in the way that it is. Like what in your mind made me show up to share this class with you? Right? It's something coming from you. And that's true about everything we experience, moment by moment, day and night. So that will be true going on into the future. So can we learn what will determine the circumstance of this mind's future life? And can I then have influence over that? And the answer is yes. By way of understanding the process through which the images in the mirror get put in, right? How the causes for the images in the mirror get there. And that process is called lei, karma, movement of the mind and what it motivates. Such a simple idea. So karma is the law of cause and effect. It does have within it this sense of duty, right? And prearranged and, you know, all the limited understandings of what karma means, which are different in different cultures. You know, in Western culture, we call it you reap what you sow. Our tradition teaches this laws of karma in this very specific way, so that we can get beyond the limitations of other cultural beliefs in karma. So Geshe even rarely uses the term because he doesn't want, right, people to have what he says about karma to match what their understanding will limit their ability to understand the depth of what he's teaching. So again, the beauty of these ACIs is that we're learning these, you know, clear details, redefining things that maybe we had understood differently. So remember that teacup with the lid open, right? So lei, we learned LE is the term for karma. There are there are principles of karma. Call them explanations for how our mind works. Right? So Buddha did not sit down one day and say, I'm going to make this about karma be true. The laws of karma are not that. They are explanations for why we experience things the way that we do. And when we understand them well, we can use them well, because we're already using them. We're just being used by them, right? By our past misunderstanding. So here's the 4 in Tibetan, where those seeds. Le Nyepa, Le Pelchewa, Le Majepa Dong Mi Trepa, And le jepa chumi soa. There, is that better? Okay. Got him. Le nyepa. Le palchewa. Le ma jepa dong mi trepa. Le jepa chumi soa. Okay. So these explain why mind awareness, intellect is part of the mind, Shanti, but don't think intellect when we use the term mind. Think aware, conscious.
Yeah, I was thinking the small m and the big M again.
Yeah. Intellect is a very teeny piece. No matter how big, right? Although our intellect is huge. So the principles of karma are explaining to us why virtuous behavior is necessary if we want any kind of pleasantness, even within worldly circumstances, let alone reaching that happiness with the capital H. And we'll learn what we mean by virtue. Karma can be produced in 3 ways. It's produced by our physical deeds that we're aware of doing. It's produced by speech. And it's produced by mind. Right? So our awareness is karma's ripening and it's karma's planting. And that's where the intellect comes into play, because our thoughts that we have that pop up and we follow or don't are ripening karmic results and planting seeds. So just movement of the mind is karmically driven and planting. So one level of movement of the mind is, I'm thinking this and this and this and this. But just to go, oh, my back hurts, right? That's movement of the mind. It's a result experience, and my response to it, even if it isn't more concrete than going, that seed's planted. Right? So we can see that this karma thing, right, is happening on a gross level and a very subtle level. And all of it's going to be within our power of using it. Right? Eventually even manipulating it, but let's call it using it. All right, so that first one, le nyepa. Le nyepa, the first principle of karma, the words means karma is definite. And still when I hear that, I recognize my mind goes, oh, that's just saying that karma is true. And although it is true that karma is true, that's not what this principle is talking about. This principle, karma is definite, means it is definite that a helpful deed will bring a pleasant result, and a harmful deed will bring an unpleasant result, no matter what it looks like in life. before David and I were married, we went to visit his parents, and they lived further away than my parents. And we used to go visit my parents once a month. And when I'd go home, I would always clean my mother's kitchen for her. You know, it was never particularly, needing cleaning, but she appreciated, right, that I just did it. So I went to visit David's mom. And I wanted to, make a good impression and please her. So she was away doing some volunteer work. So I cleaned her kitchen for her. And she was so insulted. Like, I'm not sure we ever got over that, our relationship, right? And I was so astonished that she was insulted, because I had expected, her to have the same response my mom had. Gosh, thanks. Now I don't have to do it. So the same deed brought different results. And like, I was so shocked. I remember it was just like, I don't get it. Until I heard this law of karma, right? And no doubt we all have similar stories. It looks like a kind deed brought a wrong result because she got upset with me. How can that be? Gajala's example is, we tell a little white lie to get the advantage in the business deal. And we get the advantage in the business deal. And so we think, see, it was a good thing to tell that lie. But later, somebody lies to us about something. Is that pleasant to be lied to? Not generally. So can the lie, telling the lie, have brought the pleasant result of getting the advantage in the business deal? It seemed like it. But if being lied to is unpleasant, the person we lied to, right? We knew we were lying to them, whether they know or not. And we have this added mistake of thinking the lie, in fact, worked. When it can't have, because it's definite that telling a lie will make us be lied to in the future. This life or next. Getting the business deal my way is a ripening result of something similar we had done in the past, giving somebody the benefit. And yet in worldly life, we don't make that kind of connection. We think what I do now brings that result. But when we learn the laws of karma, we see, gosh, something else is going on here, right? To paraphrase Arya Nagarjuna. So it is definite that kindness will bring pleasantness and unkindness will bring unpleasantness, even though, in worldly life, it does not seem to be the case. That's why they use the word definite. We can't say, well, sometimes the white lie is okay. a, a, a virtuous deed, a good deed is called, I'm getting sloppy with my terms. A good deed is a deed of body, speech, or mind done that brings a pleasant result in the short run. A negative deed, harmful deed, is a deed that brings an unpleasant result. And they say there's neutral karma, deeds done that bring neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And I'm not sure I'm convinced about neutral karma, but we're learning about this gap between what we do and the result we get. And so our task then is to apply our own reasoning to think, well, if I see myself doing that to them, what will that be like when it comes back to me? And use that to make our decision. What will that be like when it comes back to me? Will I like it? Do it. Will I not like it? Find something else to do. Right? So the definition, we could say, of a kindness is something I do towards other that when it comes back to me, I will like. Okay, that's the first one. Let's take a break. And we'll carry on. Okay. Are we back? Okay, ready? Translators ready? Second one, le pelchewa. Le karma. Pelchewa. Pel means increase. Chewa means bigger. So it's kind of redundant. Increase, bigger. Meaning grows. Like the teeny little acorn grows into the huge big oak tree, which is a good thing if you want the oak tree there. But it's a bad thing if you don't want the oak tree there. In the desert, we have a plant called broombush, which when you destroy the desert, it's the first thing that comes up. It's an invasive weed. It's actually kind of pretty, but its little teeny flowers get all of these poof balls that fly all over the neighborhood. They float around. It looks like actually snow floating around in the fall. And they're very easy to propagate. And once they get going, as a mature plant, they are impossible to pull out of the ground. Their roots go so deep. But when they're the little sprout, they're distinctive. It's like, right? So, right, the task in fall and spring, my personally assigned task, anywhere I see one of those little seedlings, like, because if it's growing in the crack of the community sidewalk and it gets to be this big, it's breaking the sidewalk and you can't get it out. So, cut it off at the pass, as they say, when it's little. Same for karma. The deeds that we think, do, say, making this impression on the mind, they start out little. And then similar ones add to them, opposite ones detract from them. But within every worldly deed is our misunderstanding, our ignorance. And so every deed has a little commonality, and they're being fed. So they don't just go along. They go along growing, all of them. And then I don't know quite how it happens, but any given seed gains enough growth or power to cross the threshold into its ripening, and we've got the experience of its result. Our moment by moment experiences are these seeds getting over the threshold. And our response to those moment by moment experiences are the seeds we're putting back in. And the seeds we put in are growing. The seeds we're experiencing are being plucked out, right? They're done. Those who have slowed their minds enough in meditation to look tell us that we are ripening 65 mental imprints per instant, not second, instant, and planting 65 per instant, but the 65 grow to more than 65. So we will never run out of karmic seeds. Another explanation for mind stream. It's why we will never run out of a mind. There's always more seeds there to ripen. We're planting, we're ripening, and they're growing. Yeah, multiplying, growing. Okay, not just sprouting. So a tiny little goodness can grow into a whopping pleasure. A tiny little badness can grow into a whopping unpleasantness. And it always makes me a little squirrely to hear that, right? Without saying hot on its heels, but there's something we can do about it, right? So let me say that there's something we can do about it. But we need to learn the principles first. Third one, le majepa dung mi trepa. This one says, le majepa, a karma not done. Mi trepa, can't make contact, meaning a deed not done cannot bring a result. And we go, duh, but we complain, I can't find that perfect job. What's wrong with my world? I can't get that, right? They. But if we don't have the karmic seeds for the perfect job, why would we expect to find it? Right? We can't get something we haven't created the seeds for. And by implication, that means anything that we do get, we have made the seeds for. That's probably the more important implication of this one. Because we could argue, well, I can't find my perfect job. Doesn't mean I don't have the seeds. It just means they're not ripening yet, which is true. So we would set about to create seeds that would add to the earlier seeds to get them to ripen. Either way, however, this shows us that blaming something or somebody other than our own past deeds is not going to help us reach the happiness we're looking for. So we can't get results if we don't have the seeds. Is this third principle. The fourth one is le jepa chu misawa. So that word chu, C-H-U, this one is like a long U, chu, and it means just. Chu means dharma, can also mean water, all kinds of meanings of the word chu, depending on how it's written. But here, it doesn't mean dharma. Le jepa chu misawa means karma done does not just disappear. A seed planted, once it's planted like firmly enough to be a whole seed, it won't just disappear on its own. It doesn't mean we can't damage it. We can. But we can't expect some deed that we've done to not bring a result eventually. we might say, oh, that little white lie, that's okay this time. I promise not to do it again. And think that that will somehow negate it from bringing its result back to us. And it won't. We have to do something. We have to make new seeds to intentionally damage the negative ones that we have in there already. Yes, so this does go for deeds, words, and thoughts. We learn the process and first work with our deeds and words, because thoughts are too slippery. But the process of doing so, our ability to work with our thoughts gets, right, it's going to grow. Okay? And we can work with those more specifically as we get more familiar. So when we first learn these 4 principles, first we got to cook them. And really like, oh, okay, so what she's saying is, I'm aware of myself doing stuff all day. And whatever that experience is, and my response to it is all these results of past ways that I've done something similar to others. And I'm getting those results now. And how I respond to them is plants new circumstances that will come back to me in the future. So that means my reactions, moment by moment by moment, is the arena within which I am creating my future. Mostly, we are in react mode, right? This happens, react with that. This happens, react with that. And our reactions are driven by past habits of reactions. And all of that has within it the misunderstanding of these 4 laws of karma. So we're not taking into consideration as we react, how will this come back to me? We can grow our ability to be aware of the impulse to react arising and choose. Yes, I want to do that. No, I want to do something different. And that's the practice that we will be learning, is how to grow that level of awareness and how to choose, how to recognize the patterns that my reaction to being criticized is to, yeah, but you do that, right? Is to criticize back. And to recognize that, everybody in the world says it's right to criticize back. But now I see that criticizing back is what makes me be criticized again by somebody else. And I don't like to be criticized. So I'm going to try really hard to change my reaction to being criticized to something different. So I use the terms react versus respond. Okay? I'm trying to recognize react, hold it, and choose a response instead. And it takes practice. Okay? We'll learn the methods. We'll learn, thanks, Aldo. we'll learn, right? We'll learn ways to work with this so that we can get good at it. So again, these laws of karma were not made up by Buddha. They're not like concrete truths in and of themselves. They are an explanation of reality, how reality works. So they are an explanation of where happiness comes from, where suffering comes from. And it points out that it all is within our choices of behavior. And we're the ones who do our behaviors. So understanding these principles, we can be completely in charge of what we create for our future. We rely on the guidance of those who are ahead of us on the path to help us through the challenges. But all of Mahayana Buddhism teaches personal responsibility, right? In the sense of you can do it, right? You have the power to change. We start with ourselves, some little niggly habit that we realize doesn't really serve anybody. And we set about to train a new habit. Don't try to just ditch an old habit. Anybody ever try to quit smoking by just throwing your cigarettes away? Like I used to run quit smoking programs. And you can't do that. You have to put something right where the cigarette pack was. Chewing gum, toothpicks, peppermints, something, so that when you have the urge for the cigarette and you reach into your pocket, you find something else, not just a black hole. So same for overcoming some bad habit. The habit of pointing out the negative. Don't try to just stop doing it. Decide, I'm going to point out every red object I see. Right? It's going to drive your spouse crazy because they don't care about red. But for myself, right? Replace a new habit with the one we're wanting to break. One that when it comes back to us will be pleasant experience. Yeah. So, understanding the laws of karma and all its ramifications, we can learn the tools where we can create the circumstances of our future life. That's where we started. But then the Lamrim says, but wait, let's make sure that the future life you're wanting to create is not still just a better samsaric life. So yes, we close the doors to lesser rebirth. Yes, we want to go beyond our own nirvana. But are we still thinking, well, I just want to make sure that I make another human life in the Dharma? Is there something wrong with that? No, we might need one, or 5, or 7, or 50. And yet these teachings are saying, don't aspire for another human life. Because there's a difference between aspiring for another worldly human life versus another human life training in the Dharma. Okay, it'll be human, but not worldly human, right? We don't want to come back and have to start all over, is the point here. So the Lamrim says, look, consider the problems of human life, right? So that we don't aspire to more worldly human life. That there are other kinds of sufferings to consider as well, but there are 6 sufferings unique to humans. And I'm not going to do the Tibetan here. I'll just read it to you. The first one is Nyepa Mepa Nyepa. Kind of fun to say. It means in this life, there's no certainty. In a human life, there's no certainty. Anything can happen at any moment, can't it? We know. Good things, bad things, disasters, amazings. We have no control over that. And that's a kind of suffering. Second one, Nyompa Mepa Nepa, Mepe, Nyompa Mepe Nepa, sorry, translators. This one means the problem that there's no satisfaction. You remember that rock and roll song? You can't get no satisfaction. They were right. We're never satisfied. We finally get the thing we wanted. And then we want something else or something more, or it breaks. It's a condition of human life. Because we're having the results of incredible goodness to have a human life. But that incredible goodness done for the wrong reasons, and not with wisdom. That means underlying, they all end. And leave us wanting for more, right? Suffering of change. Third one is Lu Yang Ne Yang Du Doorway Nyepa. Yang Ne Yang Du, over and over again. We had it before. This one means the problem of discarding our bodies over and over again. It's a funny way of saying we're forced to die and take rebirth again and again. But this one's targeting the aspect of we lose our body. Like we are not our body. We have it, and then we lose it. It wears out. It ends. We go on. We have to make a new one. We lose it. A new one. We lose it. It's a suffering human condition that we lose our bodies again and again and again. They say the number of bodies we've lost would make a mountain bigger than Mount Meru. Because we're talking infinity, infinity. But it also implies that we don't have to do that. If this is a suffering and we're going to end all suffering, we're going to end the fact that we've got to lose our bodies again and again. I don't know. I don't want this one forever. So I hope the one I'm going to make will be better. Next one is Yang Ning Sum Jorwe Nyepa. It's the yang ne yang do again, over and over again. Over and over. Ning Sum means crossing border, meaning it's their way of saying rebirth. We're forced to take rebirth over and over again, to take birth over and over again. So the first one, our body dies again and again, and we're forced into rebirth again and again, in which we undergo those three sufferings. And the 8 and the 6 and all the other lists. Number 5, yang over and over again. Do mendu girway, I can't read my notes. Nyepa, the problem of going from high to low over and over and over again. Meaning, it's a problem that when things are going well, they always drop. Anything that goes up must come down is true. Karmically as well, apparently. And yet we think, like, I aspire my career to go like this. I'm going to get to my pinnacle and I'm going to stay there until I choose to retire. Right? And it's like, so often that doesn't happen. Life is one long roller coaster. And we resist it and we struggle against it because we don't understand how we created it. So we don't understand how we can stop perpetuating it. And it's not something we want to aspire to perpetuate. Number 6, drop mepe nepa. The problem of there being no companion. You know, they're showing that socialization is as important to long life, right, as good food and air and water, that we need to have connections to other beings. Karmically, it makes sense, right? Eventually, they're going to figure out that in that socialization, it's how we treat other people that actually is the source of that long life and happiness. But they're getting closer. And yet this teaching says, in the end, we're all by ourselves. So in particular, they mean through the dying process, we can be surrounded by our people who love us and we love them. But as our karmic seeds end for this life, our consciousness withdraws, they say. And we're all by ourselves. Nobody can go with us through that. But what that whole process is driven by are the results of the deeds done on behalf of all those people. The ones we loved, the ones we didn't love, the ones we didn't care so much about. We did all those thoughts, words, deeds towards them, collecting all those seeds. Some good, some not so good. And as we die, we take all of those karmic seeds with us, but not our people. And when we're getting into that, apparently, there's an aspect of that that we become aware of, not intellectually, but I don't know, you could say vibrationally, we feel a bit betrayed. you can't help me after all I did for you, right? Kind of the Jewish mother genotype, right? But we have that inside, and it's not a state of mind that's helpful in the process of dying, right? It's like it's a ripening of and planting of seeds that will direct us in the wrong direction. So these 6 sufferings of human life are supposed to help us in the growing of our renunciation of this worldly life, desire for more of it, and desire for future lives, but meaning desire for more ignorant this life, more ignorant future life. So really deep down, what are we renunciating? Our ignorance, our misunderstanding. And from that ignorance comes our selfishness. So our renunciation isn't about, oh, I'm going to sell my Mercedes and buy a VW. I don't have a Mercedes. But, right, it's not about giving up our worldly circumstances. It's about changing our worldly beliefs and behaviors. It's much more difficult than giving up your home and your job and going to live under a bridge. So don't do that. That's not your renunciation. Stay put. Study. Learn karma and emptiness and what to do about it. And change our aspiration for what we believe brings happiness. So how do you know when you've developed true renunciation? Lama Tsongkhapa gives us this verse, and so I am going to give it to you in Tibetan because it's quoted a lot. Myen sen kuntu tarpa dunir lo. Jum na date se nyen jum kepa lak. It's hard for me to see. Okay, got it? High tech. Audio visuals. Nyen sen means day and night. Kuntu, nyen sen kuntu, all day, all night. Darpa means freedom. And dunyer lo means the aspiring mind. So the mind that's aspiring to freedom all day, all night. Juna date say means at the time that happens. Nyenjung, renunciation. Kepa lak, it's been developed. It is developed. Our renunciation is developed when we have a mind that's aspiring to freedom all day and all night. Freedom from what? Ignorance and selfishness. Not freedom from going to work. Not freedom from hot weather. Freedom from my own selfishness. Wouldn't that feel good? freedom from my own misunderstanding where things come from, so I know how to create happiness for everybody. Wouldn't that feel great? And every circumstance that I am experiencing is my opportunity to create instead of just react, which perpetuates the ignorance. Life is perfect for what we need. Constant circumstances to which we have the opportunity to respond in ways to create happiness for everyone. Your life maybe won't look much different, but our going through it and responding to it will feel very much different. And the idea is for it to become so clear that it's fun. It's fun when good things happen because we try to share them. And it's fun when bad things happen because we know how to respond to make them not ever happen again. So having a good time. Either way, it's hard to conceive. We're just getting started. So the verse, Tsongkhapa's whole verse says, when you've meditated thus and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of cyclic life, and when you think both night and day of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. So again, on the surface, it sounds like it's saying, oh, just stop wanting good things. But we've learned that there's a deeper meaning here. Stop wanting good things in the wrong way. Want good things in the right way for everybody. And that's our renunciation turned towards others. So thank you, Geshe Michael, for that kind of explanation of renunciation. It's much deeper than deciding to become a monk or a nun and go live in a monastery, which is useful and helpful. But we could do that and never really learn the principles of karma. And we would make a lot of merit by way of not harming others. But we wouldn't be guaranteed of working with our ignorance and selfishness. If you have a day job or a family, we have the perfect laboratory for working on our own mental afflictions, which are karmic seeds ripening. And so we need them to burn them off and plant new. Okay? All done with the renunciation of our misunderstanding and the selfishness that comes from it. Okay. So your meditation is an analytical review of the 4 principles of karma, and include in your conclusion how that helps you grow what we mean by renunciation. So try and get this idea of renunciation clear not renunciating outer things, something within ourselves that we want to overcome. And how those 4 laws of karma show us that we'll be able to do it by way of our behavior choices. When you show it to yourself, right, it will sink in deeper than my words can go. Okay? So you have a few days to work with it. And so that's all I have. If there are questions, I'm happy to take them since we have a few minutes, or we will just do our dedication and I will bank the extra minutes for later. Good? Are we good? I don't see any hands. So remember that person you wanted to be able to help? We learn stuff that we will use to help them in that deep and ultimate way someday. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please, please be really happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Throw your gratitude to them. Your reliance upon them. Ask them to please, please stay close. To continue to guide you and inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. That love, that compassion, that wisdom. A little glow or a tingle. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. Second one, to share it with everyone you love. Third, to share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all filled with wisdom, filled with happiness, filled with kindness. And may it be so. All right, thank you everyone for the opportunity. We are changing our world, yay. What is
Thank you
this?
to teacher.
Welcome. Thursday, have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you, dear Lama.
Not
Thank you.
sooner.
Teacher.
Okay, bye-bye.